We're also learning about the 3 victims in yesterday's triple homicide on Indian Summer Drive.
Investigators say Eric Ashley, Arkia Berry, and her 5-year-old son Landon Brooks were fatally shot yesterday evening around 5:30. Officers found them in a crashed car on Indian Summer Drive. That's right near the Echo Highlands neighborhood. First responders confirmed they died at the scene. Officers say the driver of the car crashed into someone's yard following the shooting.
We've deployed all of our detectives in the Birmingham Police Department to focus on these particular cases to bring justice. For those who are responsible for those heinous crimes, I want you to know that we will be coming for you with full force. With every piece of law enforcement that we have, we will be coming for you.
On July 13th, 2024, just after 2 o'clock, Birmingham's 911 dispatch center received what seemed like a routine emergency signal from a vehicle's crash detection system. The coordinates placed it near Echo Highlands Park, a quiet stretch of road tucked between residential neighborhoods and wooded lots. Officers expected a simple fender bender or a driver who had lost control. When they arrived, it was clear this was no accident. A Nissan Maxima sat crumpled against a large tree. The driver's side window was blown inward, the frame punctured by bullet holes. Glass glittered across the road, and the interior was stained with blood. The smell of gunpowder still hung in the air. Inside the car were 3 lifeless bodies. In the passenger seat was 28-year-old Arkia Berry, known to everyone as Kia, her head resting unnaturally against the window. Behind the wheel was her long-term partner, Eric Ashley Jr., slumped forward over the steering wheel. And in the back seat, still strapped into his booster seat, was 5-year-old Landon Brooks.
Somebody shot into this car with multiple people inside, killed a child.
The boy as young as 7 or 8 years old in the car with who police believe to be his parents. This scene unfolding near Echo Highlands Park in Birmingham. It's just a few blocks away from Pinson Valley Parkway in the northeast portion of the city.
I think it's a shame that this happened like this in our neighborhood. I mean, it's very quiet around here and humble. And someone come over here to meet up and do whatever they need to do and cause this chaos out here. It's just bad. I don't feel too good about that.
All 3 had been shot multiple times. The scene was devastating, but as investigators began piecing things together, it became apparent that the crash site was not the primary location of the attack. Evidence pointed to Echo Highlands Park itself, where a barrage of gunfire had erupted moments earlier. Over 24 shell casings lay on the asphalt in tight clusters, the kind of grouping that suggested skill, not chaos. The shooter had fired deliberately, striking with precision. The victim's car had fled the scene only to crash a short distance away. This was not random violence. It was targeted, calculated, and merciless. To understand how 3 people ended up executed in broad daylight over what would turn out to be a $2,000 debt, we have to begin with who they were. Arkia Berry was born on March 17, 1996, in Birmingham. She grew up in a close-knit family that valued hard work, loyalty, and community. Kia wasn't loud or flashy. She was grounded, private, and determined to build a good life for herself and her loved ones. After graduating from Huffman High School, she attended Lawson State Community College, studying cosmetology. It wasn't just a career path, it was her passion. Kia had a natural talent for hairstyling, with a knack for intricate braids, flawless sew-ins, and vibrant color work. Her salon chair became a safe space for her clients, who trusted her not only with their hair but with their personal stories. She eventually opened a small salon suite on Birmingham's East Side. It was a place filled with soft music, laughter, and the comforting hum of hair dryers. Her social media showcased her work, each post a testament to her growing skill in business. But outside of her career, her greatest joy was her son Landon. Landon was born in 2019, and from the moment he arrived, Kia's life revolved around him. The two were inseparable. Friends and clients recall him often being by her side, clutching toy trucks or dinosaur figurines. But in 2020, tragedy struck when Landon's father, 27-year-old Larius Brooks, was found shot to death inside a burning apartment. The murder left Kia to raise her son alone. She took on that role with quiet strength, determined to give him a childhood filled with stability and love. Over time, Kia's life intertwined with that of Eric Ashley Jr., her partner in both life and parenting. Together, they provided Landon with a home, a routine, and a family unit. By the summer of 2024, they were a picture of everyday resilience, working, raising a child, and making plans for the future. None of them could have foreseen that a simple drive to the park would be their last. The events of July 13th began around 2 in the afternoon. Witnesses later reported seeing a Nissan Maxima in the parking lot of Echo Highlands Park. It wasn't unusual. Families and couples often came to the park on weekends. But parked nearby was another vehicle, a green Kia Soul, that seemed out of place. Moments later, the sound of rapid gunfire shattered the afternoon calm. Panic rippled through the park as people ducked for cover or fled the area. The Nissan Maxima sped away, but not far. Within minutes, it collided with the tree where officers would find the victims. As investigators processed the scene, they noted the deliberate nature of the attack. The grouping of shell casings suggested a shooter who knew exactly what they were doing. This was an execution, not a random spray of bullets. Traffic camera footage from the area captured a blurry image of a green Kia Soul fleeing the vicinity of the park right after the gunfire. It was too distant to catch a license plate, but it was the first tangible lead. Back at police headquarters, technicians began examining the victims' phones. On Kia's device, they found a final outgoing text sent minutes before the shooting. It contained a single word, Jocko. That name became the key that unlocked the investigation. Cross-referencing with police databases, detectives identified a 25-year-old man named Jacon Deshawn McGregor, known by the nickname Jocko, a figure with a low-level criminal history and suspected connections to narcotics activity. Digging deeper, investigators recovered a series of deleted messages from Kia's phone using forensic extraction software. The tone of these exchanges was tense, almost confrontational. Phrases like "we need to settle this" and "let's just resolve it" hinted at a conflict that had escalated beyond casual disagreement. The final message in the thread, sent 48 hours before the murders, read, "We can talk face to face." This was no random encounter. It was a meeting arranged to address an unresolved dispute, one that, according to later evidence, revolved around a missing $2,000. Meanwhile, shell casing analysis confirmed all rounds had been fired from the same type of weapon, a 9mm Glock or similar model. The pattern was consistent with someone firing from close range into the driver's side of the victim's car. The shooter's approach, position, and execution left no doubt this was premeditated. While investigators pursued the physical evidence, they also tracked the movements of the mysterious green Kia Soul. 3 days after the murders, the vehicle was found abandoned on the outskirts of the city. It had been set on fire in an apparent attempt to destroy evidence. The vehicle identification number had been scratched away, but a hidden chassis stamp remained, revealing it had been reported stolen just 2 days before the shooting. The burned-out shell of the car still held one crucial clue: under the driver. His seat, partially protected from the flames, was a melted SIM card. Forensic examination revealed an MSI number linking the SIM to a burner phone. That burner had been active in the area of Echo Highlands Park at the exact time of the murders. The phone records told an even more compelling story. Moments before the killings, Jacon McGregor's primary phone had been active in the vicinity. It then went dark, only to resurface hours later in another part of the city, near where the burned Kia Soul was found. The burner phone tied to the melted SIM followed the exact same route. The movement of both devices mirrored each other from start to finish. But the investigation wasn't just about tracking devices. Financial records revealed that 2 days before the murders, Eric Ashley Jr. had withdrawn $2,000 in cash. That money vanished without a trace. Text messages on Eric's phone included phrases like "drop" and "settling" language. Detectives recognized as consistent with street-level narcotics exchanges. While neither Kia nor Eric had an active criminal record, the evidence pointed toward a deal gone wrong. By now, the pieces of the puzzle were coming together. The victims had arranged to meet McGregor at Echo Highlands Park. Whether the meeting was intended to collect on a debt or resolve a dispute, it ended with an execution. With the evidence mounting, Birmingham police turned their focus entirely on locating and securing Jacon Deshawn McGregor. The data pulled from the melted SIM card, the synchronized movements of the burner and primary phones, the eyewitness description of the green Kia Soul, and the recovered shell casings all pointed in his direction. But building a case on circumstantial evidence, no matter how compelling, required precision. Without a confession or the murder weapon, investigators knew the defense would attack every gap. The forensic timeline was damning. Cell tower records placed McGregor's phone within range of Echo Highlands Park in the minutes before the murders. At 1:48 p.m., his primary phone powered off, an act investigators interpreted as an attempt to avoid location tracking. At 2:15, less than half an hour later, the crash alert from the victim's Nissan Maxima was transmitted to 911. By that time, McGregor's phone was dark, but his burner device was pinging in the same area. Both phones then traveled together toward the western outskirts of Birmingham. Just after 4:30, MC Gregor's main phone powered back on miles from the park and near where the burned Kia Soul would be discovered. The stolen vehicle's forensic examination told its own story. The fire had been set using gasoline as an accelerant, a quick and dirty method to erase fingerprints, DNA, or ballistic residue. But in the undercarriage, shielded from the worst of the heat, a fragment of the SIM card had survived. That fragment would become one of the most critical pieces of evidence tying MC Gregor to the crime. Investigators also learned of a third-party witness, someone with no direct connection to either the victims or the suspect. This witness reported seeing a man matching MC Gregor's description walking near the abandoned burned Kia Soul around 3 o'clock that same afternoon. While there was no surveillance footage to support the sighting, the statement was consistent with the digital trail. With the timeline established and the evidence mapped out, Birmingham PD made their move. Even with his arrest, the road to trial was far from straightforward. On July 20th, exactly 1 week after the murders, officers arrested MC Gregor without incident at an apartment complex on the city's west side. During questioning, he claimed to have been with a friend across town during the killings. But when detectives checked that alibi, it quickly fell apart. His friend's phone had been at the apartment during the time frame, but MC Gregor's devices had not. The 2-hour blackout in his phone records perfectly aligned with the time of the shootings. Prosecutors needed to present a narrative that would withstand the absence of a murder weapon or a direct eyewitness to the shooting. The Jefferson County grand jury convened to review the evidence and decide whether to indict MC Gregor on capital murder charges. In the grand jury proceedings, the prosecution began by walking through the ballistic evidence. 27 shell casings had been recovered from the park, all consistent with a 9mm Glock-type firearm. The pattern of shots was tight and deliberate, indicating that the shooter fired from close range into the driver's side of the victim's car, continuing until all occupants were hit. This was not a drive-by, not random crossfire, it was an execution. Next came the digital trail. The prosecution mapped the movements of McGregor's primary and burner phones onto a timeline. That matched perfectly with the shooting and the subsequent torching of the stolen Kia Soul. The melted SIM card, partially shielded from the fire, bore an EMSI number that matched the burner phone's records. That burner had been used to contact both Kia and Eric in the days leading up to the murders. Financial records added another layer. Eric had made repeated small withdrawals over the previous weeks, $200 here, $400 there. But 2 days before the murders, he withdrew $2,000 in cash. That money was never recovered. Messages on his phone, and Kia's reference terms like drop and settling, phrases that prosecutors argued were consistent with street-level narcotics or cash transactions. While neither victim had a criminal record, the implication was that the debt in question had roots in an illegal transaction, one that MC Gregor had no intention of repaying. The prosecution also revealed the significance of a location mentioned in the deleted messages: the lot. It was an abandoned gas station on the city's edge, known in past investigations as a meeting spot for illicit exchanges. 10 days before the murders, surveillance cameras captured a green Kia Soul parked there. Though the footage didn't clearly identify MC Gregor, the timestamp aligned with messages exchanged between him and Eric's number. This, prosecutors argued, showed a pattern of in-person meetings in the lead-up to the shooting. Family and friends of the victims were called to testify about the hours and days before the murders. Eric's sister recounted overhearing a heated phone conversation in which Eric demanded repayment. A co-worker of Kia's recalled her saying she was going with Eric to a meeting that couldn't wait. The prosecution's theory was simple. The meeting was to collect the debt, and MC Gregor's solution was to eliminate all witnesses. After just over 4 hours of deliberation, the grand jury returned an indictment on 3 counts of capital murder, 1 for each victim. MC Gregor was ordered held without bond. His attorney entered no plea, setting the stage for a trial that would force the city to relive one of its most shocking crimes. As the legal process moved forward, the emotional toll on Birmingham was immediate and profound. News of the killing spread quickly, and vigils began within days. At Echo Highlands Park, blue and white balloons were released into the sky. Teddy bears, flowers, and candles were placed near the crash site. Kia's co-workers described her as peaceful, focused, and entirely uninvolved in any personal disputes Eric might have had. Her only role that day was as a partner and a mother. At Landon's elementary school, teachers organized a balloon release. His classmates, too young to fully understand, drew pictures and wrote messages in crayon. His teacher spoke through tears, remembering him as a bright, curious child who loved dinosaurs and always asked questions. One of the most emotional gatherings took place at the football field where Landon played youth sports. His coaches struggled to find words, acknowledging that they had already seen him endure the loss of his father in 2020. Now the boy was gone too, along with his mother. They told the crowd that sports had been his escape, his comfort zone, a place where he could just be a kid. The funerals were held at New Bethlehem Baptist Church. The sanctuary was filled wall to wall. Family, friends, former classmates, colleagues, and strangers who simply wanted to pay their respects. It was not only a moment of mourning, but also a reckoning for the community. This was not mistaken identity, not gang violence, not random chance. It was a personal conflict that ended in calculated murder. In the weeks that followed, the case continued to make headlines. For many, the unanswered questions were as haunting as the facts already known. Why take the lives of all three? Why kill a child who posed no threat? And how could anyone believe that erasing witnesses was worth $2,000? The district attorney's office remained committed to pursuing the maximum penalty. The evidence was strong, but without the murder weapon or a confession, the trial would hinge on convincing jurors that the digital and forensic trail was as conclusive as eyewitness testimony. For Birmingham, the case became a symbol of both tragedy and resilience. It was a reminder of how quickly lives could be destroyed and of the enduring pain left in the wake of violence. And as the city waited for justice, the names of Arkia Berry, Eric, Ashley Jr., and Landon Brooks became more than just a headline. They became a call to remember that behind every crime statistic are lives, families, and communities forever changed.